I'm Kelly Arndt. I wanted to introduce myself. Congratulations on getting on the council. It was just, I'm delighted to see all of you in action. You work very well together. So,
thank you.
Looking for good things from you guys.
Good. I'm happy to see some familiar faces too. So hi, everybody.
Hi, Dana.
Well, and we are live, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so are we ready to go? So
We are ready to go.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I think we're ready to get started. Amy has got all the technical wizardry in hand, more such as it is. So I think we're ready to go. Let me read the official opening statement, and that is, first of all, because this is a Zoom meeting, everybody, thank you in advance for your patience. Sometimes these things get a little screwed up when we talk over one another, so we'll try not to do that. There is a public comment period early on in the meeting, and if there is anybody from the public who's tuned in, they will have an opportunity to speak. And of course, any of us, if we have comments, can speak at that time. The process we'll use this time is just like as we have in the past, that if anybody wants to speak on any issue or during the public comment period, we ask that everybody state their name in advance so we know who's speaking. Although I think we can see everybody, but we've been asked to do that so that the recording of this will always have the person identified. If when we go around on issues or voting or comment periods, if you don't have anything to say, you can always say pass and we'll go on to the next person. We will take votes by roll call. So instead of everybody saying yes and not being able to get a correct count, Amy will go around and ask everybody what their vote is. So, and I think that is it. Okay, does that sound right, Amy? I think we hit all the high points here. Well, let's get into the meeting. By the way, just unofficially, thanks everybody. Glad to see you. Glad to see Dana, who I've actually, and I have to, by the way, Dana, I owe you an email, so I'll be in touch this week. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So I would call for a motion if anybody wishes to make a motion to approve the minutes, or if not, to change or amend the minutes. Anybody?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Any comments or discussion or changes that need to be made to the minutes?
I have no changes to the agenda today. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's call the vote.
Ms. Arndt.
Yes.
Ms. Bigman.
Yep.
Mr. Christensen.
Yes.
Mr. Cronin.
Yes.
Ms. Lilly.
Yes.
Mr. Rosen.
Yes.
Mr. Sardar.
Yes.
That motion has passed unanimously.
Okay. The second item is approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Once again, is there a motion to put this on the floor?
Those up for you.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Janet Lilly here. I second.
Okay. Any comments or corrections, additions, changes? Well, none being heard, I guess we can go on with the vote then.
Arndt.
Yes.
Bigman.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Cronin.
Yes.
Lilly.
Yes.
Rosen.
Yes.
Sardar.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. All right, next item of business, before we get into the real heart of this, is the issue of public comments. And before we get into that, I need to read the official statement here, and that is each caller in the queue, if there are any, will receive 2 minutes to address the board, or to address the committee, I should say. Callers will be identified by the last 3 digits of their phone number. So when they are called upon, that's how they will be identified. At this moment, do we have any public comments?
I
Anybody
do have one attendee that I am showing. Yes.
There is somebody.
Yes. So I will unmute them if that works and make them aware.
Yeah.
So the last 3 digits for the caller are 648. You are able to address the committee at this time.
Okay, just before they get started, what we're trying to do is allow 2 minutes each, and at the end of 2 minutes, we'll let them know. And it's not a requirement, but it would be helpful if the commenters would state their name. Back to you, Amy.
Okay, so the last 3 digits are 648. Caller 648, if you are on the line, you are welcome to speak before the committee. Caller 648.
Oh, I think they're muted.
Yeah, and I see it's a phone number. I think it's *6 to unmute yourself on your phone.
Caller 648, if you can hear us, please unmute your phone.
Okay.
Well, I am sorry to say that we're not getting any audio, so we can't deal with this at the moment. Perhaps if that speaker would like to join in later on or make a comment later on, that would be fine. Amy, are there any other speakers or
There are
comments?
no other speakers currently on the line, no.
Yeah.
Caller, if you would like to email me at A as in oh, I think that maybe they just unmuted, or they actually just stepped down, so perhaps they left the line. Okay. Well, I suppose we move on, and I will pay attention to that in case they try to hop in.
Okay. Well, Amy, it's over to you. You're going to discuss the financial report, please.
All right. So my screen is looking a little weird. Okay. All right, all. So the good news is that as we discussed during our June board meeting, the city of East Lansing had received a Michigan Municipal League grant of over a little more than $16,000 the Monday after we were quarantined due to COVID. So that was the good news. The timing was perhaps not ideal, but we were still able to do some pretty good work, I think, given that timeline. So I wanted to draw a couple of things to your attention. So what I did was, I know that you guys are used to sort of seeing a spreadsheet, but I thought that it would be imperative for you to kind of see all of the expenditures that we did from last fiscal year. So from July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, this committee had spent a little over $9,000. So $9,096.32. If you might recall, the East Lansing City Council had given us $10,000 to use towards operating. So we were just under that. The extra good news, perhaps for the city's budget and the bottom line, is that a little more than half of this amount, so $4,452.88 was actually charged to the MML grant. So that's even better, right? Because I mean, at least from a city budget perspective, we were only really using about $4,500 in city general funds, if that makes sense. So the rest of that balance went towards the Michigan Municipal League grant. And I know that we're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail, but I think that there's exemplary work that everybody kind of kind of should be proud of. What did we kind of spend so far? A lot of that money on that I had mentioned. A lot was a social media campaign. It was called a trafficked campaign that drove people to the census webpage specifically. And then we were actually able to view clicks. I think that there were approximately 5,000 clicks that people actually went on to the census webpage. So I think that that was probably good, good use and stewardship of that. So what that means is I wanted to give you a snapshot of the $16,708.15. You currently have $766.26. So be thinking about that as we kind of walk through the meeting, because now that the census timeline has been shortened a bit, we will have to expend that final amount by the end of September. So we have about 1 month here to kind of expend that amount. We've certainly used a vast majority of it, and I think that that's great, but kind of keep that in your back pocket. Does anybody have any questions for me regarding expenditures? I don't know if anybody looked at this too closely, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. No? Okay. Well, then I think that we can probably move on to the next item, which is the completion of the administrative count process on and off campus. And I believe Janet was going to give us a couple of updates regarding that.
Yes, thank you very much. My internet is a little spotty, so I apologize in advance if I am getting cut off from time to time. Just as a upshot, I think since we last talked, I gave the update that the university had completed its group quarters enumeration process several months ago. This was back in the late spring that we completed it. At the same time that we met last time, I think, which was in June, the census had come out saying that universities could also submit their university records for off-campus students as well, which was a huge opportunity, I think, for this region in particular. So Sue Webster, who's not on the call yet, but hopes to be on soon, and I worked very hard with our registrar's office to provide that information. We asked for several zip codes around the greater Lansing region that would include all of Lansing, all of Meridian, as well as all of East Lansing, and submitted records that was 17,559 student off-campus records. So we think that in terms of those for the city of East Lansing, it's hard to tell because there are several addresses that are within an East Lansing zip code, but technically are in Meridian Township. But Larry, Amy, Sue, and I believe that we're probably pretty close to 11,000, 12,000 students that are in East Lansing and in the East Lansing municipality. So we're very excited by this, and we submitted those records on July 10th, got confirmation right away from the census that they had been received. So that is a solid update that I feel very, very good about. I think the only place where there is a bit of a hole in terms of the university records, and talking to a number of census personnel, is with our fraternities and sororities. Those, the university apparently does not maintain records on who lives in those houses. So that group quarters enumeration was not completed through the group quarters process. Other group housing, such as co-ops and so forth, were accounted for separately. But in terms of fraternities and sororities, that was not accounted for through the group quarters process. However, if students had submitted their local address at the university, we would have accounted for them in the university process. So I feel very confident that they were accounted for, at least when the university provided their off-campus student records. So, and again, following FERPA, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, the university is only supplying names and addresses. However, I have spoken with many census people at this point. I've been at this a year and a half now, and they are all well aware that universities are not going to be giving up other records, other identifying pieces of information. And so they are, they find it sufficient and complete to have the university provide name and address. So I'm happy, Amy and Larry, to take any questions from anybody if they would like.
Trying to think. So the off-campus student addresses were uploaded, and your level of confidence that they will be used is pretty high then, because they're doing this all over the country.
It's very, very high. In fact, and I think, Larry, you were on some of the emails just over the last few weeks. A Census Bureau person contacted me. Her name is Diane Wilson. She runs the Lansing office. When she contacted me a couple of weeks ago to say that the university's records were incomplete, I did have a freak out moment. And I called her right away and I said, what do you mean? We've submitted this and this. And she goes, oh no, I see that. I see that you've submitted the on-campus. I see that you've submitted the off-campus. Where you're lacking is with fraternities and sororities. And so I thought, well, that's excellent that they see that we've completed the on-campus enumeration, which again, as a reminder, was 15,100 student addresses. And then off-campus, she could see that as well. It was, so I feel she confirmed that indeed she could see in her records that those had been submitted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's terrific. And let me just add in that I've done some analysis and we've talked about this, and I hesitated to share a lot of this with the rest of the committee because it's a lot of numbers and number crunching, and I wasn't sure how comfortable you would be with all of that. But the bottom line is that I'm they always tell you to under promise and over perform, but I am going to say that in consultation with Amy and Janet and Susan, Sue Webster, we're estimating that the final population for the city of East Lansing should be over 50,000, maybe in the 53,000, 54,000 range. Keeping my fingers crossed, but we think, given the numbers that have been submitted so far, that's where we're going to be. Hopefully, I will say this: one of the things that's been based upon are the response rates that the Census Bureau has provided back to us for municipalities and within municipalities for those small areas they call census tracts. So we've been able to track that information at a much more local level. And also the official Census Bureau estimates for the population through the year 2018. There are some glitches in there and so on, some problems or some numbers that I'm not sure I agree with, but nonetheless, that's where we stand right now. And I will try and boil this down into something a little bit more understandable very quickly and send it out to you, just so you're completely aware of where we're at. The latest thing, the only other thing I have to offer about this, and it really doesn't have anything to do with East Lansing, as a matter of fact, because that hasn't been released yet, but the Census Bureau has just started to release figures for the nation and the states and about the number of households that have responded to the census. And so far, nationwide, it's been 81.1% of all households have responded either through a direct response by getting online or calling in or actually filling out a census form. And about a little over 15% was collected by people, census enumerators knocking on doors and getting people to respond to the question. So that's where we're at. I do have somewhere in this mess of notes that's on my desk, I have a figure for the state of Michigan. There is nothing that has been produced yet below that level, so I can't share anything at the local level with you, but I'll get the Michigan figure out to you as soon as I put my hands back on it. I think it was roughly around the same percentage as nationwide. There are some states, I should point out, that are in the 90+% range. And then there are some states that are still down around 50, 60, 70%. So we're still in a fairly good position, but we still have some work to do. So I'll leave it there. And as I said, I'll try to get something on paper that is not totally chock full of numbers, but just to have a few numbers, and you can get a sense of where we are. And that leads on to our topic of new business. So and these are really important items now, because we just to start it off, we have roughly 5 weeks until the Census Bureau has issued or identified the day that they are going to stop collecting information. And it is a month earlier than we had originally expected, so it's the 30th of September. So we need to go through all of these new business items and then have at least a brief discussion about where we should focus our efforts for the next 5 weeks. So anyway, I'm going to turn this back to Amy, because you've put 3 items in the agenda, 3 attachments, and I think you might want to speak about each one of those briefly.
Sure. Thank you. So as Larry had mentioned a moment ago, I know that we all sort of paid attention at a national level on what was going on with the Census Bureau, but before, when we met in June, we understood that enumerators and the entire count process would be ending on Halloween, October 31st. But then the Office of the President came back and sort of changed that focus. And so now we have until September 30th. So to Larry's point, we have a month now to go. I have personally been in communication with our liaison offices, and they have confirmed with me that there are census enumerators, which are the actual door knockers now, going out and about. I can also tell you that I have worked with our regional field office, and that they are going to be sending some individuals out to like Patriarch Park and probably here in the downtown a couple of hours in the next month or so to really just sort of encourage people to fill out the census form. So in other words, those are census individuals that are identified with census materials, t-shirt, name tag, things of that nature, to give them legitimacy. And it might be as simple as, hey, have you filled out your census form? And if you haven't, I'm here to kind of help you. So it's really sort of this man on the street effort right now that the Census Bureau is trying to undertake. So they are working with us. They are uploading information. As Janet had mentioned, if individuals could not be counted, through the administrative process, now it's really just a matter of really trying to get the word out and saying, it's not too late. Please fill out your census form online, because you can still do that. You can still call. You can still return your form if you've kept that piece of paper on your desk since March. All the more power to you. You can still return that. So it's just kind of, working with that. The other thing that I can tell you, Census Bureau representatives have been doing are going to our farmers market still on Sundays. So that actually there's about 1,000 people every week that go to that. So that is well attended. And so they are really trying to do outreach there. So, it really is trying to be sort of a coordinated effort, but certainly if you guys have ideas, please let us know. And I guess that's probably going to kind of segue me into, what Larry had just mentioned a moment ago regarding the East Lansing census response rate. So we have estimates. They're educated estimates. They're things that we feel pretty comfortable with, but I want to be frank kind of about where we stand. So the way that the Census Bureau works is, as you can imagine, there's all these different layers of government and input, right? So the situation right now is that if you look online right now, we are at about a 61.4% response rate, which looks really low compared to the rest of the country. But the issue is that they have not counted any of the MSU administrative data. So that is not including any of the upload information that Janet had mentioned for off-campus individuals, and it is not putting anybody on campus. So the minute that that information gets downloaded, we're really anticipating like a 25 to 30% increase. And as you can see, that's a totally different ballgame than in our mind. I have pushed, I have tried, I have kind of said to the Census Bureau, is there anything I can do to move this along in a forward-like fashion? Because we have 5 weeks, and kind of the feedback I'm getting is, love you lots, East Lansing, but we're not uploading it for everybody and everybody gets it at the same time. So I think that if we can, I'll just kind of keep pushing and, trying to move that along, but it really is an educated guess at this point. Larry and I were talking about, to be frank, a lot of the lower census numbers, like the Delta Triangle, sort of up in the northern tier, those are still lower right now. But how much of that will now be counted through the MSU administrative process? We anticipate quite a bit, right? So, we're kind of trying to shift to, general messaging, sort of getting the word out to people. The one thing that I kind of wanted to point out as well is that we do have brand new hot off the presses door hangers. I feel like I'm like on TV zooming in and out for you. But they are brand new, and essentially they say, it's not too late. You can still complete your census questionnaire, by calling this phone number, by returning your paper form. We have discussed the fact that like we as staff are willing to go out and kind of try to, paper the neighborhoods and get that out and about. But if you as committee members are interested in helping in this, perhaps you go for an evening walk or something of that nature, I can get these to you very easily. I'm happy to meet you somewhere with my mask on and hand these off. So this is sort of the most recent promotional materials that we paid for through the Michigan Municipal League grant. So I always think it's even better when we get to spend somebody else's money that is hopefully being worthwhile and going towards other things. I think that we've kind of talked a lot about where we spent the funds, but to kind of recap a little bit, sort of to date, we've sort of spent about $7,500 on like social media advertisements. We spent over $5,500 like on banners and signage and posters and brochures and handouts and things like that. When COVID hit, we bought hand sanitizer. And I don't know if you guys have heard about like our mask ambassador program downtown, but I've given them some of the hand sanitizer and it's actually gone really well, kind of like hotcakes. So while people are picking up free masks, they can also grab our hand sanitizer. So I say, why not? And census stress balls. So if any of you would like some census stress balls, we also have some of those. So just kind of like some swag material given out throughout the community. So those are kind of my, updated information about activities and promotional things that we have done thus far. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I think just from a staff perspective, we are most interested in sort of hearing about if you guys have any creative ideas for continued outreach as we sort of make this last month push. So.
Well, let me start that off. The question for me is, we have 2,500 of these door hangers. Is that the correct term, door hanger?
They're door hangers. Yep, that's right.
And if necessary, we could get more of them. The real question is, assuming that some of us are willing to actually hang these on people's doors, where should we focus our attention? Because obviously we're not going to try to hit every household, every residence in the whole community. And in some cases where there are apartments that you can't get into unless you know someone there because there's a door lock, a main door lock. But we need to talk about where we would target our efforts. And I can start this off by looking at the response rates. And as Amy said, the areas where we haven't done all that well are primarily the student areas. And but then again, we don't know how many of those students are being captured through the data that the university has provided to the Census Bureau directly. And it's certainly possible that some people have responded in those areas who are also on the list. So they may, not that they'll be double counted, because the Bureau has a very a very rigid or aggressive way of getting rid of duplicates so they don't overcount. Our big worry is undercount, and we want to make sure all those students were counted as of the winter semester, because that's what we're basing this on. And there's also some neighborhoods where there may not be as great a count as we would like. Plus the fact that traditionally the most undercounted populations tend to be non-English speakers, racial and ethnic populations, the homeless, and in some cases the group quarters, like the fraternities and sororities. So we need to figure out, or at least I'd love to hear other people's opinions about what you think we could do, and or what you would like to do that may not be on this list that you may want to do yourself. You know, is there a population that you have contact with that you can actually reach, and you want to give them these handouts to encourage them to respond if they haven't already? So I'll shut up for a while and turn it over to the rest of you and see what kind of ideas you have.
I guess just so everybody doesn't start talking at once, this is Colin Cronin. I'll throw my 2 cents in. I apologize. I'm on the road back from Grand Rapids right now, so if I jump in and out with cell phone connection, I apologize for technology. Yeah, I think trying to reach a lot of the campus areas physically is challenging at this point, because no matter where they lived in the springtime, I mean, everybody just had the large move in and move out, so the kids have all shifted all over campus. So just because they were in, called the Cedar Village area, the Delta Triangle up north, in springtime, usually if you get a renewal rate of about 20, maybe 25%, that's probably high. A lot of the kids have moved, and the question is, where have they gone to? So at the end of the day, I think the electronic communication to reach out to all the students is by far the best method of contact. Be it social media, be it, you know, if MSU has the direct email addresses, whatever a direct communication is to all the students, electronically is probably far better than a physical thing, other than just for awareness. But even on the door hanger side, I could easily take 1,000 and get them distributed, you know, to apartments across, you know, the core of East Lansing. But again, not knowing who lives where, or who lived where in the springtime, it would be more of an awareness campaign instead of a direct outreach campaign. So in my mind, I think a lot of the electronic communications are by far the best.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Amy, do you have any thoughts about doing some more social media stuff?
I mean, I think that that's certainly fine. I think that we have certainly found that social media is fairly inexpensive in terms of the realm of advertising. I don't know if you want to spend the remaining balance in that area, but you know, I think I presented metrics last time. You know, we spent a significant amount of the MML funds on a social media outreach. And for that campaign, as I mentioned, it was a traffic campaign. So what that meant was, even if you lived in Grand Rapids or Detroit or, you know, Port Huron, if you were affiliated with MSU, what we did was we drove your traffic. And I think that we had over 300,000 eyeballs, so like impressions on that campaign, which was pretty impressive. I think the advantage of social media is that you can create a range, right? So you could say that it's persons of 18 to, you know, whatever you want, 92, living within an area. If you guys wanted to kind of do like a geographic area, I think that would be fine. So certainly it was one of the items on the staff memo, and if that's the direction you guys would like to go, what we would do is we would work with the communications division and our graphic designer. We have an in-house graphic designer, Archie Foote, and she could help us perhaps just tweak our, you know, our messaging a little bit to fit whatever this committee thinks is necessary, and then we could pay to have the social media, you know, go out. So we could certainly do Facebook and we could do Instagram very easily.
Yeah, and I'm thinking Instagram may be better only because, you know, what I've been hearing is that Facebook is for old fogies like me.
There are no old fogies, Larry.
I have a question. I I know we said that a lot of the places are students, but are there other parts of the community that are not usually student centric that are in need of?
Well,
door
yeah,
hangers or-
let me, I have the self-response rates as of the 21st of August, and I think I can get something more recent than this, but what I've learned in the last month or so is that each time there's a new release of data, the increase has been minuscule, like 0.1%. So what I'll tell you right now is pretty close to where we're at. I'm not even going to mention the really good areas. Well, I'll mention them. I don't even give you the percentages. The Pinecrest area is 78% responded by themselves. White Hills 77. The Southeast Marble and Brookfield Heritage, which is where I live, is is about 72%. And there's an area around Falcon Point, which is north of Lake Lansing Road and east of Chandler Road, where there's some new apartments and housing, and they have about a 76% response rate. So here's areas where we might consider doing some handing out. The Tamarisk area, which is, I think, sort of parallel to, if my memory serves me correctly, and Amy, jump in here. But Tamarisk is on the north side of East Lansing, and then the census tract goes off into north of Lake Lansing Road, so it has some student areas. I think it includes them. They're at 68%. Old White Hills and Lantern Hill area, which is the area north of Bertram Drive and south of Saginaw, they're at 66%. Glencairn and Chestnut Hills is 66%. What else do we have? The Flower Pot area, and I'm not quite sure why this is only at 42%, but that includes a bunch of student housing, but it's old married student housing, and I'm not sure if I know some student housing was eliminated. It was literally torn down, but there are some areas north that are adjacent to 1855 Place that I think are included in there, and they haven't had a real good response rate. Where else? There's a northern area, a part of the census tract, which is near but does not include Tower Gardens and Carriage Hills, and they're at about 68%. So I'm not even sure if that affects us very much. So, and then there's some other suburban developments way up in the northern tier of the community, east of Chandler and north of Coleman. I'm not exactly sure what's up there, but they're at about 64, 65%. So those are the non-student areas, as far as I know. All of them are in at least the 60s, and many of them in the 70+% range. Those are some areas we might, consider doing something with. Other than that, it might be seeing if the library, I think they've reopened on a very, no, they're not.
I don't think so. I don't
Oh,
believe
okay.
so.
I thought they were doing
I
something.
think that they have maybe some curbside options.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't believe they're open to the public yet.
Mhm. So, I mean, other than that and some of the downtown stuff, does anybody think there's any value in going to the residents of the new apartment houses, the Hub, and the buildings that are right on Grand River downtown that are currently open? Is there any value in doing that? Because we don't know if they've been captured or not. I don't know whether the Census Bureau was up to date with that, since they just started becoming occupied this spring.
Well, so the Hub and the Landmark were open last fall. So students signed
Mhm.
contracts, and were residing in them for the 2019-2020 year. So if the student had provided their off-campus address for that area, for that particular residence, then we would have captured that when we submitted those off-campus
Oh, okay.
records. Yeah, in July. And what we did is we captured it back to April. So even though we pulled the data in July, we
Mhm.
went back to who was living there in April before they left,
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic, if you will. So the only one that wouldn't be accounted for is the Abbott, because that just opened, but technically that shouldn't be in the count because no one was living there in April.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, and Colin's right. We don't, I mean, he's a property manager of probably the largest complex or the largest set of properties in the whole region. And the sense from the university records and just anecdotally is that students often, the majority of students, change locations year to year. So we don't really have any reason to believe that whatever a student was residing in last academic year is the same place they're residing this academic year. So I feel good that if students, were living in the hub and they'd provided that address to the university when we asked for a local address, that they would have provided that information. But again, the data that we provided the census is what the students had provided us.
Okay. Well,
So Larry, going to the original question about should we use social media and things, it seems to me that seems to me to be a no-brainer, frankly. And with the data you just gave out in response to my question earlier, it sounds like there are places where there are not generally students living that are still sort of low, not, like in the 60%. So maybe the Facebook for older people or old fogies or however you phrased it might still be worth it, and Instagram and whatever. It seems to me that reaches the most people in our day and age, and might be worth us putting our efforts into that. In addition to anyone who wants to, put door hangers up, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's good too. But I don't know how much that would cost. And I don't know what kind of motion we would need for that. But I'd be happy to make some kind of motion on that.
I don't know that we actually need a motion. I think we can just kind of do it, wing it. Amy, we have we have 2,500 of these. So if I know, Rabbi Bigman, I think that you make a good point, and I really I had forgotten about the fact that just because Instagram is more popular among young people, there are still a fair number of older people who are reached that way. So that may be, that's a very viable point. So I think that's a good point. Amy, do you think that we have enough money to, to do some of that before this whole thing wraps up?
Certainly. I mean, to be honest, social media is one of the least expensive marketing mechanisms. So I absolutely think if the committee feels strongly, we can say, okay, we're going to just take the remaining balance of the grant funds and allocate that towards some social media pushes, and that's certainly fine. I welcome if Mr. Cronin would like to take some of the door hangers. I think that's great. Another idea that we had in the memo was, I don't know if we felt like a newspaper advertisement. I don't know how many people are reading the newspaper these days, the printed newspaper. No, nobody's. Okay.
I think you'll get more bang for the buck with social media than you would with a newspaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then anything that we can put up on our own social media,
Certainly. So like we could send you guys the JPEGs, and then if you guys didn't mind individually, you could forward them on to the constituents.
Amy, also, if I may, if there is a way to emphasize on the fact that you can still register, submit it online. These are times when people don't want people visiting them. So if we can emphasize that point, that would be helpful. That might serve as an incentive.
Yep, it's easy. It takes less than 10 minutes. Click on it here. Perfect. Okay.
Is the link on the door hanger? I know I've looked at it, but I can't remember.
It is, yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's just 2020census.gov. So yes. Yep.
Also, I was mentioning that from the standpoint, people may have misplaced the card which the Census Bureau mailed it to their homes. So
Mhm.
there's still a way to do it online. So that can be
Absolutely.
emphasized somehow.
Great.
Absolutely.
This is Dana speaking. So is there any non-English speaking literature or social media that's been done?
So we have shared links. So the state of Michigan has non-English speaking materials. And so we link directly to those materials. We, East Lansing, have not created any materials, but we have linked to them. So that is something else we could consider.
Yeah, there's, as far as I know, there's actually printed materials, not from the city, but from the Census Bureau. There's printed materials in at least a dozen languages. And there are online links to something like 25 or 30 languages all told. Some, at least for this area, fairly obscure, but obviously there's a known population of those language speakers in the country. So, it might be something like Tagalog, which is what they speak in the Philippines. And we don't have a whole lot of Filipinos, perhaps, who speak Tagalog in this area, but there are other places where they may congregate. So there's a lot of that, but it's, they would have to search it out. We could probably, I don't know, maybe put something online that just directs them to the other languages.
Absolutely.
Perhaps.
And I know we talked about the MSU students mostly, but I just wanted to mention like the high school has like supply pickup day coming up soon. And so maybe that could be a spot to stop parents and people that are driving through, but I just wanted to throw that out there in case we're thinking about the families too.
Absolutely.
I think that's tomorrow.
Maybe that's a good place for the door hangers too.
Yeah, just hand them out to the folks. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think, is it just tomorrow?
Oh, it's tomorrow. Oh,
Yeah, tomorrow and Thursday, I believe.
well, I wonder, Superintendent Lako's on our committee. Maybe she'd let me drop stuff off. I wonder what time tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, if the schools weren't, if the East Lansing schools weren't doing virtual learning, parents pick up their kids at the middle school right down the block from me. So I could just walk along and hand them to people's cars, but they're not going to be there. Well, maybe they'll be there tomorrow. I don't know. What time of the day? Do you know, Dana?
I believe it's 10 to 12.
10 to 12. Okay.
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I know that they used to do Friday packets because we had sent a couple of census materials, but I don't know if now during COVID, if they do that, where they used to do like virtual Friday packets when kids were in session. I could certainly, ask if that's still a possibility, and we could just send a digital version of the materials.
Okay, well, this is a great discussion. I think what we'll do is, if it's okay with everybody else, we, Amy and I and anybody else who's interested, we can chat tomorrow, perhaps sometime, and come up with, just finalize some of these. Amy, do we need, but we do need officially a motion in order to authorize you spending the funds? Is that right?
Well, it's technically a grant awarded to the city, so we could do it one of two ways. I always appreciate when a board does it so that it doesn't just look like Amy decided to do X, Y, and Z. Officially, because it's a grant provided the city, I do have that proxy, but it would be, I would appreciate if the committee was willing to make a motion.
So I'm happy to renew my offer to however you want to need it worded, Amy, is how I'm going to make the motion.
Perfect. Maybe authorization to spend the $766,026 towards social media.
You took the words right out of my mouth from one end to the other. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Do we
I
have a
will
second?
second that motion. I'll second.
Of course you are, Kai. That's because we're a duo,
Yep, we
all
are.
year.
Okay.
I can take a roll call vote then.
Sure.
So Kelly Arndt. Aye. Bigman.
Yep.
Christensen,
Yes.
Cronin,
Yes.
Lilly,
Yes.
Rosen,
Yes.
Sardar.
Yes.
Perfect. That motion passes unanimously.
Sue
Oh,
Webster's
Sue.
on the call right now too.
And I say
And
yes.
Sue just joined.
I've been listening.
Hi, Sue. I wasn't ignoring you. So Sue, I think Sue is a yes. Perfect.
I said yes, yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, before we wrap this up, let me ask this. Is there anybody on the committee right now who would like to spend a few minutes, another half hour or 45 minutes, sometime this week, and to just finalize some of these ideas perhaps, or because we might be able to arrange a brief meeting with a few people just to make sure we're all on the same page about doing this, and, you know, what neighborhoods and so on. So and you don't have to answer this right now. If you just want to send Amy an email, or send me an email or a text or whatever, well, maybe if it's okay with you, Amy, maybe we can get 2, 3, 4,
Absolutely.
you know, anybody who's interested, we can just sort of kind of finalize everything. So let us know.
Larry, before you wrap up, Amy was seeking ideas earlier. Not sure if we'll get to meet again. So I was wondering if, since the census day itself sort of fizzled out because of the lockdown, could we have like sort of a countdown to the closing date? It doesn't have to be a campaign per se, but maybe the City of East Lansing's Facebook page can have like a countdown.
Countdown. I think
Yeah,
that's a great
starting
idea.
from 10 days before, or even 2 weeks before, for that matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's great.
Yeah, that may be a better idea than having another meeting. You know, we could, I mean, theoretically, we could schedule one for the Monday, September 28th. I'm not sure what the purpose of that would be, but
That is when you have, that is what I have on my calendar reserved. So I think that that's entirely up to the committee. Would you, I guess the question is, would you like to meet in September and then also October, or
September 28th is the holiest day of the Jewish year.
Jewish calendar? Yes.
it is not, why is it not on my calendar?
So I will be busy. And I don't think it's appropriate for the city to have a meeting on that day.
I'm perfectly comfortable changing it. Absolutely. So, Mr.
Is
Chair,
that Yom Kippur that day? What? Wow, I must be looking at the wrong year. Oh, no, of course you're
Trust
right.
me, I got these dates down.
I know you
sermons are
do.
being written. I got the
Yeah,
dates
no,
down.
I am, no, it's me. I don't know why. Okay. You're right. You're absolutely right. Of course. So yeah. But how about October, so we can do a post-mortem as they.
so we had originally scheduled September 28th, and it sounds to me like I'm hearing we're not interested necessarily in that. So then the other date that we had originally planned to meet was October 26th, because that would be the last Monday. And that was the appointment I sent everyone. So am I hearing that people would prefer to skip September and maybe come back at the very end of October, have that be our last meeting, and kind of wrap up and share whatever metrics we have at that point, and kind of a congratulations to one and all. I have to be frank, I don't know if we'll have everything, but hopefully we'll have a good handle on it. Is that some kind of seeing some consensus? Is that what we'd like to do? Okay.
Yeah, I think that might be
that approach
enjoyable.
Perfect. Okay, so then we will not have a meeting in September, but we will plan to meet again in October 26th then. And I will, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and cancel the meeting that was sent to each of your appointment calendars in September, and keep the October meeting. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, folks. Well, I think that covers everything. Any other last things that we need to chat about or discuss before we wrap this up for today? Well, let me just say this. Thanks, everybody. The participation level has been terrific. I really appreciate it. And I guess we'll keep our fingers crossed, and maybe we can do a little self-congratulation in October, even though we won't have the final results. But we'll have a better sense of where we are. So look forward to speaking with all of you in a month. And again, thank you very, very much. This has been a terrific group of people, and I think the city of East Lansing has been served very well. And thank you, Amy, for all the work you did.
Well, this is a team effort. This is a team effort for sure.
Well, thanks. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
all.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Oh, I thought I left. I'm still here. Okay, that was good.
It was good.
That was very good.
I'll call you tomorrow then, Mary, and or you can call me.
Yeah, we can set something up. The only thing I have this week is of any consequence is that I might have mentioned I'm doing some phone solicitation for the Alyssa Slotkin campaign, and that's Thursday evening, late Thursday afternoon. I think it's 5 to 7 or something like that. The rest of this week is pretty wide open. I am going to try to send something out to the committee members anyway. I had all this stuff, but I even have this terrific chart, although I don't know if people like charts that well. You know, you can't go by me because I'm this. I finally realized after all the years I tried not to be involved in mathematics and all that stuff, that I'm a numbers freak. But here are the response rates for East Lansing.
I think that's great.
I'll work on try to get an update on that, and we'll just figure out where these things go. I'll talk to you tomorrow sometime.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Larry. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.